Hi, welcome to this Corbettmaths video. In this video, we're going to look at the video solutions to the Corbettmaths Practice Questions on drawing pie charts. If you need any extra help on drawing pie charts, if you go to Corbettmaths and go to the videos and worksheets section and scroll down to video number 163, there's a dedicated video tutorial there on drawing pie charts. But in this video, we're going to focus on the video solutions to the practice questions, so let's get started. Okay, so question one. Question one says the table gives information about the holiday destinations of 18 students in a class. And so here we've got the country, France, Wales and England, and we've got the frequency. So 3 students went to France, 4 students went to Wales, and 11 students went to England. And we've been asked to draw an accurate pie chart to show this information. And then if we go down, we can see we've got the circle with the line there, the radius there, and we're going to draw the pie chart here. Okay, so if we go back up, before we draw the pie chart, we need to find the angles of each of the sectors. So we need to know what angle the sector will be for France, what angle the sector for Wales will be, and what angle we should use for the sector for England. So here we've got the frequencies. And if you add together the frequencies, 3 plus 4 is equal to 7, plus 11 is equal to 18. And we were told that in the question anyway. So we know there's 18 students altogether. So if we want to find the size of each of the angles, I'm just going to write angle here. What we're going to do is we're going to take 360 degrees, so 360 degrees, and we're going to divide that by the total frequency, which is 18. And if we do 360 divided by 18, what do we get? Now we could use the bus shelter method here if we wanted to. 360 divided by 18. How many 18s go into 3? There's 0 remainder 3. How many 18s go into 36? That's 2. And how many 18s go into 0? That's 0. So that's 20 degrees. So that means that each person is represented by 20 degrees in the pie chart. So that means that if we want to find the angle for each of these, we're going to times the frequencies by 20. So we're going to times by 20, times by 20, and times by 20. So 3 times 20 is 60 degrees. So that means the sector that represents France will have an angle of 60 degrees. 4 times 20 is equal to 80. So that means we're going to use 80 degrees for the sector to represent Wales. And finally, England, 11 times 20 would be, well, 10 times 20 is 200. So 11 times 20 would be 220 degrees. And just to check we're right, we can add up these angles. 220 plus 80 is equal to 300, plus 60 is 360 degrees. So that's great. They add together to be 360 degrees. Okay, so now we've got the angles. Now we need to draw the pie chart. So we've got our circle here with the line at the top, which is fantastic. It's quite useful. That's been drawn for us. So you're going to need your protractor, and you might have either a 180 degree protractor or a 360 degree protractor. I like to use these ones myself. I find they're quite useful for reflex angles, but you could use either one. And we're going to draw the pie chart. And we're obviously going to need a pencil and a rubber as well, just in case. Okay, so let's have a look at our first country, France, and the angle is 60 degrees. So let's go to our pie chart. And we want to draw a 60 degree angle. Now you could use either protractor here. I'm a fan of the 360 degree protractor, so if I was going to use that one, I'd put the cross of the protractor on the bottom of the line there, the center of the circle. I would line up the line to 0, and I would just go around to 60 degrees and put a little dot there. And that's what I would do if I wanted to get a 60 degree angle with this protractor. If I had one of these 180 degree protractors, I would get the cross of the protractor and I would put it on the center of the circle like so. I'd make sure that the line is lined up with the line with the 0. So as you can see here, we've got 0 at the top. We've got the cross of the protractor at the end of the line and the 0 there. And we're going to go around to 60 degrees. And we're looking at the angles on the outside of the protractor here, not the inside ones, because they're starting at 180. So 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. So 60 degrees is there. We're just going to do a little dash there for 60 degrees. And then we're going to get our ruler, and then we're going to draw a nice straight line from the center of the circle through that dash to the circumference of the circle. So there. And that would be a 60 degree angle, so 60 degrees, so that's 60 degrees. And it was for France, so let's label it and write France in there. That's very important. You don't necessarily need to write the angle in, but you definitely need to label it France. Okay, next, Wales. So if we go back up to the table, Wales, that's an 80 degree angle. So if we go to our pie chart, again, if you go 360 degree protractor, you just have the 0 lined up at the top like so. And we know that that was a 60 degree angle there. And if you add 80 degrees to 60 degrees, you get to 140. So you could just go around to 140 degrees and put a little dash there, because if you've done 60 and you go another 80, you get to 140. Alternatively, you could actually then put the 0 on the line you've just drawn like so, and just go around to 80 degrees and again put a little dash there. Or if you're using the 180 degree protractors, what I like to do here is the line we've just drawn, we're going to put the cross of the protractor on the center of the circle, and for the line we've just drawn, we're going to line that up with 0 like so. and we're going to go round to 80 degrees. So we're going to start at 0 on the outside of the protractor, and we're going to go round to 80 degrees, which would be there. And so we're going to get our pencil, and we're going to put a little dash there at 80 degrees. So that's a little dash for 80 degrees. Now we're going to get a ruler and pencil and join up the center of the circle, the circumference of the circle going through that dash. And that angle was 80 degrees. I like to label in the angle, so you don't have to unless the question asks you to, but you do need to label it as Wales. And that's it. So we've drawn a sector for France, we've drawn our sector for Wales, the last sector will be for England. So it means that this last sector will be, or should be, 220 degrees, because if we go back up, the English sector needs to be 220 degrees in terms of the angle. So that sector should be 220 degrees, and we can label it as England. And that's it, we've drawn our pie chart. And if you wanted to, you could get your protractor and you could measure that angle and make sure it's 220 degrees. I'm going to use my 360 degree protractor for this one because it's a reflex angle, so I really like these ones. I'm going to put the cross of the protractor on the center of the circle. I've put the 0 on the line we've just drawn, and if you go round, you get to 220 degrees. So that is a 220 degree angle. And that's it. Okay, let's have a look at our next question, question number 2. Okay, question number 2. Question number 2 says the table gives information about the dogs in a village. So there's 11 spaniels, 7 poodles, 4 greyhounds, and 14 Jack Russells. And we've been asked to draw an accurate pie chart to show this information. Okay, so we want to draw a pie chart. So the first thing I'm going to do is add together the frequencies. 11 plus 7 is 18, plus 4 is 22, plus 14, and that's equal to 36. That means there's 36 dogs in this village. And that's quite a good number here because now, remember, it's a pie chart, so we're going to take 360 degrees and we're going to divide it by 36 to find out how many degrees each dog is worth. So if we do 360 divided by 36, that's equal to 10. So that means that each dog is worth 10 degrees, so it's represented by 10 degrees in this pie chart. So now we're going to multiply all of these frequencies by 10, because if you've got 11 dogs and each one's worth 10 degrees, that would be a total of 110 degrees. 7 times 10 is equal to 70 degrees. 4 times 10 is equal to 40 degrees. And 14 times 10 is equal to 140 degrees. So we've got our angles, 110 degrees for the spaniels, 70 degrees for the poodles, 40 degrees for the greyhounds, and 140 degrees for the Jack Russells. And if we add these angles up, 110 plus 70 is 180, plus 40 is 220, plus 140 is 360 degrees, so that's fantastic. It's just a little check we can do. Okay, so now we know the size of the angles, we can now draw a pie chart. So we're going to need our protractor, our pencil, and our ruler, and we're going to go down to our circle here that they've drawn for us, so it just makes it a little bit easier to get started. And then we want to draw, our first one was a spaniel, which was 110 degrees. Again, you could use either protractor. I'm a big fan of these, as I've said already, and I'll stop saying I'm a fan of these. But I would just get this protractor, I'd put the cross of the protractor on the center of the circle, line up the 0 with the line they've drawn for us, and I would just go around to 110 degrees and put a little dash there, and then draw that line. If you've got one of these protractors, which tend to be the most common ones that people have, though, as I said, I really like the 360 degree ones for pie charts, you're going to get the cross of the protractor, put it on the center of the circle, line up the 0 with the line they've drawn for us, and we're going to go round to 110. So we're starting on the outside here, 0, we're going around 90, 100, 110 will be here. So remember, it's going to be an obtuse angle of 110 degrees. So it's important that you don't go to the wrong 110 degrees. You're not going to go to here, because that would be 70 degrees, not 110. We're going here. We're going around from 0 to 110. Then we're going to get our ruler and pencil, and we're going to draw a nice line from the center of the circle to the edge of the circle, the circumference of the circle, through that little dash. And that is 110 degrees, and that is for the spaniels. Okay, so we've done that first sector. Now we need to do the next one. So the next one is a poodle, and the angle for a poodle is 70 degrees. So notice here 110 and 70, that's 180 degrees. So in terms of the pie chart, those two sectors will be half of the pie chart. So it means we're going to be coming straight down. But let's have a look here anyway and see. So you want to draw a 70 degree angle. You can get this protractor, put the cross of the protractor on the center of the circle, line up the 0 with the line you've just drawn, and you're going to go around to 70 degrees here, which is straight down like so. Or if you've got one of these protractors, you could start it there, and you could have it just on 0, and then 110's there, and then another 70 bring you to 180 like so. Or you could put it so the zeros on the line you've just drawn, and you're going to go around to 70, which is there. But yeah, so we've got our dash there, and we're going to then draw a line from the center of the circle through that dash and to the circumference of the circle, so like so. And as you can see, that's half of the pie chart, and that was a 70-degree angle, and that was for the poodles. So that's fantastic. We've now done 2 sectors. We now just need to do 2 more, then we're done. So the next one, if we go back up, so we've done the spaniels, we've done the poodles. Now let's have a look at the greyhounds, and that's a 40-degree angle. So we want to draw a 40-degree angle next. So let's take our protractor and let's go put the cross of the protractor on the center of the circle, the 0 degrees on the line we've just drawn, like so, and we're going to go around to 40 degrees. So if we go around to 40 degrees, 10, 20, 30, 40, and put a little dash there. And then we're going to get our ruler and we're going to line it up, and then we're going to draw a line from the center of the circle to the circumference through that dash, like so. So that's 40 degrees, and that was for the greyhounds. And that means that the last sector is the Jack Russells, which is, if we go back up to the table, 140 degrees. So that's 140 degrees. And that's for the Jack Russells. And what's great is that that sector should be right for you. It should be 140 degrees, so we don't actually need to draw that last one, but I do like to measure it and just make sure that it's right. It's a good checker, really. Now, obviously, it may be slightly out, you know, perhaps if you've made that sector 1 degree too big or 1 degree too big and so on, you might find that this might be slightly out, so you might. So it's really important whenever you're doing these questions to be as accurate as you can be. So just make it as accurate as you can. Okay. So now don't worry too much if it's 1 degree out. I think in the exams you're allowed to be up to 2 degrees out, but it's just important to be as accurate as you can be. So let's just measure this one. If we start there at 0 and go round, we get it to be 140 degrees. That's fantastic. And that's it. We've drawn our pie chart. Okay, let's look at our next question, question number 3. Okay, let's have a look at our next question, question number 3. So question number 3 says the table gives information about students staying after school to play sport. So 15 students stayed after school to play netball, 10 stayed after school to play hockey, 26 played rugby, and 9 played football. And we've been asked to draw an accurate pie chart to show this information. And this question is a calculator question, so we can use our calculator to help us out here. So let's add together the frequencies to begin with to see how many students there are. So we're going to do 15 plus 10 plus 26 plus 9, and that's equal to 60. So the 60 students all together. Then what we're going to do is we're going to take 360 degrees and we're going to divide it by 60 to find out how many degrees represents each student in this pie chart. So 360 divided by 60, and again it's a calculator question, but you might know this already, it's equal to 6 because 6 times 60 is equal to 360. So that means that each student is represented by 6 degrees, so 6 degrees per student. So what we're going to do is we're going to multiply each of these frequencies by 6, because if you've got 15 students, you've got 15 lots of 6 degrees. So multiply by 6, multiply by 6, multiply by 6, and multiply by 6. And that will give us our angles. So 15 times 6 is equal to 90 degrees. 10 times 6 is equal to 60 degrees. 26 multiplied by 6 is 156 degrees, and 9 times 6 is equal to 54 degrees. And then if we add together the angles, 90 plus 60 plus 156 plus 54, that's equal to 360 degrees. And I like to just to make sure that those angles add together to be 360 degrees. So that's fantastic. We now know the size of the angles. Let's draw a pie chart. So we're going to start off with netball being 90 degrees. So we're going to go down here and we're going to get our protractor and our pencil and our ruler, and we're going to draw a 90-degree angle. So get the cross of the protractor, put it on the center of the circle, so the bottom of that line, and then we've got 0 degrees going up the line there, so 0 is on that line, and we're going to go round to 90 degrees and put a little dash. And then we're going to get our ruler and we're going to draw a line from the center of the circle through that line to the circumference of the circle. Okay, so that's a right angle, so that's 90 degrees, and that is for netball. Remember, it's very important that we label each of these sectors. That's netball. Next is hockey, and that's 60 degrees. So if we go back up, hockey is 60 degrees. So we're going to go down, and we're going to draw a 60-degree angle. So we'll get our protractor. We're going to put the cross of the protractor on the center of the circle, and we're going to make sure 0 goes along the line we've just drawn. So that line goes there where you get your 0 there. And we're going to go around to 60 degrees and put a little dash. So we're going to get our pencil, put a little dash at 60 degrees, and we're going to draw a line from the center of the circle to the circumference of the circle, passing through that dash, like so. So that's a 60-degree angle, so 60 degrees, and that is for hockey. So we've drawn 2 of the sectors. Our next one is for rugby, and that's 156 degrees. So we're going to draw a 156 degree angle for rugby. So let's go down. And we're going to get a protractor. And we're going to put the cross of the protractor on the center of the circle. We're going to make sure that 0 is along that line we've just drawn. So that line there. So there, we've got the 0 on that line. And we're going to go around to 156 degrees. So remember, 0 is on the outside. So go around 80, 90, 100. 150, 155, 156 is just there after 155, so it's just there. And that's it, that's 156 degrees. And then we're going to get our ruler and our pencil, and we're going to draw a nice line from the center of the circle through that little dash to the circumference of the circle. So that is 156 degrees, so 156 degrees, and that is for rugby. And that means the remaining sector here must be 54 degrees for football. And let's just check that. And as you can see, there we've got 54 degrees. So that is 54 degrees, so 54 degrees. And that sector was for football. And that's it. So we've drawn our pie chart. We've labelled each of the sectors. We've got netball being 90 degrees, hockey being 60 degrees, rugby being 156 degrees, and football being 54 degrees. Okay, let's look at our next question, question number 4. Okay, so question number 4. Question number 4 says there's 4 types of tree planted in a new park. We've got ash, birk, oak and willow, and we've got the number planted, so 30 ash trees, 14 birch trees, 55 oak trees and 21 willow trees. And we've been asked to complete the pie chart for the information in the table, so we need to draw a pie chart. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to add together the number planted to see how many trees are planted all together. And it's a calculated question, so we can just do 30 plus 14 plus 55 plus 21 is equal to 120. So it's 120 trees planted. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take 360 degrees, so the number of degrees in a full circle or a pie chart, and we're going to divide it by 120 to see how many degrees each tree is worth. And 360 divided by 120 is equal to 3. So that's 3 degrees per tree. Now we're going to multiply each of these by 3 because each tree is worth 3 degrees. So if you times the number of trees by 3, you can then find the angle. So 30 times 3 is 90 degrees. 14 times 3 is equal to 42 degrees. 55 times 3 is equal to 165 degrees. And 21 times 3 is equal to 63 degrees. And let's just check it adds up to be 360 degrees. And when you add those angles up, you do get 360 degrees. That's fantastic. And I like to do that just to check. Okay, so now we need to, this time it doesn't say draw a pie chart, it says complete a pie chart. So as you can see, the first one for ash has been drawn for us. It's a right angle, and if we go up, we do get 90 degrees. That's fantastic. So we now need to draw the next one, which is birch, which is 42 degrees. So we want to draw the sector for birch, which is a 42 degree angle. So let's get our protractor. We're going to put the cross of the protractor on the center of the circle and the 0 along the line that's just been drawn. So obviously that line would have been drawn there. So we want to go to 42 degrees. So we're on the outside of the protractor here. 10, 20, 30, 40, and then 42 would just be here. And then we're going to get our ruler and pencil and draw a line from the center of the circle through that little mark. And that is our angle of 42 degrees. That's 42 degrees, and that's for birch. So we've drawn the sector for birch. The one for ash has been drawn for us. Now let's do oak. So if we go up, oak is 165 degrees. So if we go to our pie chart, we want to draw a 165 degree angle. So we're going to go from the line we've just drawn. So we're going to put the cross of the protractor in the center of the circle, put the 0 on the line that's just been drawn. So there, we want to go around to 165 degrees. So we're on the outside here, 10, 20, 30, 40, all the way around, 150, 160, 165 is there. So that's 165 degrees. So let's move that away and get our ruler and pencil and draw a line from the center of the circle through that point. And that is 165 degrees, and that is for oak. And if we just check, we've got ash, birch and oak, and the last one is willow, and that should be 63 degrees. So let's label it willow, so willow, and let's just check it is 63 degree angle. So let's just get our protractor and let's check it is 63 degrees. And there you go, you can see it's 63 degrees, so yeah. Okay, and that's it. So that's our pie chart. We've got ash, birch, oak and willow, and we've labelled the sectors. We've drawn the pie chart accurately, and yeah, Okay, let's look at our next question, question number 5. So question number 5 says the cinema sells popcorn in 3 different size bags. There's small bags, medium bags and large bags, and then we've got the numbers sold here. And the manager of the cinema draws a pie chart to represent this information. So the manager's drawn a pie chart to show this information. So let's have a look at the pie chart. So here we've got small, we've got medium, and we've got large. And the question if we're going down says, give a criticism of this pie chart. So we need to criticize this pie chart. We need to find something that's wrong with this pie chart. Okay, now the first thing I noticed here is if we have a look, the sectors for medium and large, we've got the large bags of popcorn being the largest sector and the medium being smaller. But if we actually go up to the table, we've actually got more medium bags sold than large bags. So the sector for medium should be bigger than the sector for large in terms of the size of the angle. But this clearly doesn't show that. So that means the manager's pie chart is wrong. And also I've noticed here that that's 90 in terms of the number sold for medium. And that's a 90-degree angle. But in terms of the large, that's 70 numbers of bags sold. That's clearly not a 70-degree angle. So there's something wrong here. Actually, out of interest, let's have a look at the medium bags and see what size that angle should be. So 20 plus 90 is equal to 110 plus 70 is 180. So there's 180 bags of popcorn sold. And if we do 360 divided by 180, that's equal to 2. So that's 2 degrees per bag. And then if we times each of these frequencies by 2, that'll tell us the size of the angles, what the angle should be. 2 times 20 is equal to 40 degrees, so it should be a 40-degree angle for the small bags of popcorn. 2 times 90 is equal to 180 degrees. That's half the pie chart. Now, actually, if we have a look here, half of the bags sold, half of the 180 is 90, so half of the bags sold are medium size, but that's actually 90 degrees, which is a quarter of the pie chart, not half of the pie chart. And then large, 70 times 2 is equal to 140 degrees. And then if we go down here, you can actually see in terms of this angle here, it might be 40 degrees. Actually, let's just check and see if the small angle is correct. So this should be 40 degrees. Let's have a look and see. Yeah, that is 40 degrees. So the small sector's right. That's 40 degrees, which is great. But that's not 180 degrees. That actually needs to be 180 degrees. This needs to be 140 degrees. So the large sector is far too big. So let's write this down. And that's it. I've just written down the angles for medium and large are not correct. For example, medium should be 180 degrees, not 90 degrees. Okay, let's look at our next question, question number 6. Okay, so question number 6, we've got this table, and it says the table gives information about the number of students in year 7 to 10. So we've got year 7, there's 200 students, year 8, there's 140 students, year 9, there's 220 students, and year 10, there's 160 students. And we've been asked to draw an accurate pie chart to show this information. So let's add together the frequencies and see how many students are in year 7 to 10. So that would be 200 plus 140 plus 220 plus 160 is equal to 720. So the 720 students in years 7 to 10. So if we do 360 divided by 720, that's equal to 0.5. So that means it is half a degree per student. Each student is worth half a degree in this pie chart. So if we multiply them all by 0.5, that'll tell us the size of the angles, or what they should be whenever we draw a pie chart. So 200 times 0.5 is equal to 100 degrees. So angle, 100 degrees. 140 times 0.5 is 70 degrees. 220 times 0.5 is 110 degrees, and 160 times 0.5 is 80 degrees. So that's fantastic. We've now got the 4 angles for years 7, 8, 9 and 10. Now we just need to draw the pie chart. So let's get our protractor, pencil and ruler. And the first sector was year 7, and that was 100 degrees. So let's get our protractor, put the cross of the protractor on the center of the circle, and go around to 100 degrees. Now remember, we're looking at the numbers on the outside of the protractor here. So 90, 100 will be there. Remember, it's an obtuse angle. Okay, so 100 degrees, we'll just get a ruler and pencil and draw a line through that. So that's 100 degrees. And that was for year 7. Okay, now year 8, if we go back up, year 8 is 70 degrees. So if we go down, we want to draw a 70-degree angle now. So let's get our protractor, put the cross of the protractor on the center of the circle, the 0 on the line we've just drawn, and we're going to go around to 70 degrees. So 0 all the way around to 70 degrees, which is there. And then we'll draw a line from the center of the circle through that point to the circumference of the circle. So that's 70 degrees. And that is year 8. So that's 2 sectors. Next one, year 9 is 110 degrees. So our next angle is 110 degrees. So we're going to get our protractor. We're going to put the cross of the protractor on the center of the circle. And we are going to put the 0 on the line we've just drawn. And we're going to go around to 110. So remember, on the outside of the protractor, so 90, 100, 110 is there. So that's 110 degrees there. So let's get a ruler and pencil and join those up. So that's 110 degrees, and that's year 9. And finally, year 10 is 80 degrees. So this should hopefully be 80 degrees here, 80 degrees. Let's get our protractor and just double check. Yeah, 80 degrees, and that is for year 10. And that's it. So we've drawn and labelled our pie chart, and that's it. Okay, let's look at our next question, question number 7. Okay, let's have a look at our next question, question number 7. So question number 7 says the table gives information about the meals ordered on a Sunday. So we've got 14 people ordered chicken, 9 people ordered beef, 57 people ordered pork, and 10 people ordered vegetarian. And we've been asked to draw an accurate pie chart for this information. So we want to draw a pie chart for this information here. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is add together the frequencies to see how many meals were ordered. So we've got 14 plus 9, oh, it's not a calculator question, sorry. 4 plus 9 is equal to 13, plus 7 is equal to 20, plus 0 is equal to 20, put a 0 down, carry a 2. 1 plus 5 is 6, plus another 1 is equal to 7, plus 2 is 9. So there's 90 meals that have been ordered altogether. Now we're going to do 360 divided by 90, and that's equal to 4, because 4 lots of 90 is 360. So that's 4 degrees per meal. So each meal is worth 4 degrees in the pie chart. So we're going to times each of these by 4. So we're going to multiply by 4, multiply by 4, multiply by 4, and multiply by 4. So if we then just label that column angle, well, 10 times 4 is 40 degrees. That one's quite nice. And 9 times 4 is 36 degrees. And 14 times 4 is equal to 56 degrees, because if you double it and double it again, double 14 is 28, double it again is 56. And finally, 57 times 4, well, 50 times 4 is 200, and 7 times 4 is 28, so it'll be 228 degrees. And if we do 56 plus 32, that's equal to 92 degrees, plus 228 will be equal to 320 degrees, plus 40 is 360 degrees. That's fantastic. Okay, now we've got the angles. Let's draw the pie chart. So the first one was chicken. That's 56 degrees. So we want to do 56 degrees for chicken. So let's get our protractor, and let's put the protractor on the center of the pie chart, 0 at the top, and we want to measure 56 degrees. So 50, 55, 56 is there. And we draw a line from the center of the protractor to the circumference, like so. So that is 56 degrees, and that's for chicken. Okay, next, if we go back up, beef, 36 degrees. So now 36 degrees. So we'll get our protractor, and again, we'll put the cross of the protractor on the center of the pie chart. We'll put the 0 on the line we've just drawn, and we want to go around to 36 degrees. So 10, 20, 30, 40, so 35, 36 would be there. And we're going to get our ruler and pencil and draw a nice straight line from the center of the circle to the circumference, like so. And that is 36 degrees. So, and that was for beef. Okay, now we've got 2 more sectors to draw. We've got pork, which is 228 degrees, and vegetarian, which is 40 degrees. Now I've got a couple of choices here in terms of how we approach this. If I have a 360 degree protractor, like this, I would just do the 228 degree one next. So I would just go down. I would go to the protractor, and I would put the cross of the protractor on the center of the circle, the 0 on the line we've just drawn, so like so. So as you can see, we've got the center of the protractor on the center of the circle, the 0 on the line we've just drawn, and we want to measure 228 degrees. So we go around 100, all the way around 200, 220, 225, 226, 27, 28 is there. And I just put a little dot there. And that's what I would do there. So 225, 226, 227, 228 is there. And put a little dot. And then I get my ruler and I draw a nice line from the center of the pie chart to the circumference of the circle. And that is 228 228 degrees. And that's why I really like these 360-degree protractors for those reflex angles like so, and that was for pork. So that's one way to do it. Another way actually would have been, if we go back up, is actually to have drawn the 40-degree angle for vegetarian. So if you've only got a 180-degree protractor like so, you could just put the protractor on the center like so and just go around 40 degrees the other way and you get to there, and then that would be a 40-degree angle there, and that's for vegetarian. So vegetarian. So rather than drawing the reflex angle, you could draw the last remaining acute angle, and what's left would then be for pork. Or alternatively, what some students do is if they've only got a 180-degree protractor, they put the protractor on the center of the circle, they put the 0 there, they go around to 180, which is there, then they turn the protractor around, they then line that up, and they've done 180 degrees. They need to get to 228, so there's another 48 to go, which would be there. So there's a few different ways you could approach that. I do like those 360-degree protractors for those reflex angles. And that's it. So we've drawn that pie chart. We've got chicken, 56 degrees, beef, 36 degrees, pork, 228 degrees, and vegetarian, 40 degrees. Okay, let's look at our next question, question number 8. Okay, so question number 8. Question number 8 says a football coach records the number of tackles made by 4 defenders during a match. So Andy made 25 tackles, Connor made 60 tackles, Mark made 35 tackles, and Thomas made 80 tackles. And we've been asked to draw a pie chart to show this information. Okay, it's a calculator question, so let's add together the number of tackles. 25 plus 60 plus 35 plus 80 is equal to 200. So it's 200 tackles altogether. And if we do 360 divided by 200, that's equal to 1.8. So it's 1.8 degrees per tackle. So each tackle will be represented by 1.8 degree in our pie chart. So let's multiply by 1.8, multiply by 1.8, multiply by 1.8, and multiply by 1.8. So if we do 25 times 1.8, that's equal to 45 degrees. 60 multiplied by 1.8 is equal to 108 degrees. 35 multiplied by 1.8 is equal to 63 degrees, and 80 multiplied by 1.8 is equal to 144 degrees. And let's add these angles up and see what we get. So 45 plus 108 plus 63 plus 144 is equal to 360. So that's fantastic. So those angles seem right. Okay, so we've now got the angles. And so Andy's 45 degrees. Let's start off with Andy. Now this time, the circle and the line instead of going up vertically has gone across horizontally. Whenever these questions are given to you in the GCSEs, there will be a circle and a line drawn for you. Normally that line does go up, but sometimes I've seen it on occasion they have gone horizontally, so you just do it as normal. So rather than having the line at the top, it's just here. Okay, so we want to draw a 45-degree angle for Andy. Now we could go around this way and go down that way, or we could go around that way if you prefer and go around that way if you wanted. It's up to you. Or you could go this way. I'm going to go this way here just because with me filming it's just a bit easier going up around that way. Okay, so we want to draw a 45-degree angle for Andy. So we're starting at 0 there. We've got the cross of the protractor on the center of the circle. No, just knocked it. You got to be careful here. And then you want to go around to 45 degrees. So 45 degrees would be there. Okay, so we've done the little dash. We're going to get a ruler and pencil, and we're going to draw a nice straight line from the center of the circle through that little dash. Okay, so that's a 45-degree angle, 45-degree angle, and that is for Andy. So that's the first sector done. Now if we go on up, Connor is 108 degrees. So we're going to draw a 108-degree sector for Connor. So we're going to put the cross of the protractor on the center of the circle again and line up the 0 on the line we've just drawn. We want to go around to 108 degrees. Because I've chosen to go around this way, I'm looking at the angles on the inside of the protractor. If I was going around that way, and I've gone beneath, I would have been looking at the numbers outside. So just be careful there. So 0 is there. We want to go around to 108. 10, 20, 30, 90, 100, 105, 108 would be there. Also just making sure you know that 108 would be an obtuse angle, and that angle's obtuse. Okay, so then get our ruler and pencil and draw a nice straight line from the center of the circle to the circumference through that dash, like so. And that is 108 degrees. And that is for Connor. Okay, next to Mark, if we go up, Mark is 63 degrees. So 63 degrees for Mark. So let's get our protractor again. And it's 63 degrees. So the cross of the protractor on the center of the circle. We've got the 0 on the line we've just drawn. and we want to go to 63 degrees. So remember on the inside here, so 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, and 65 there, so 64, 63 would be there. So that's 63 degrees. So that's 63 degrees, and that is for Mark. And the last one would be hopefully 144 degrees for Thomas. And let's just check that. So we've got the 0 on that line. We've go around to 144 degrees. So that's correct. I really like these 360 degree protractors. And that is for Thomas. And that's it. So we've drawn our pie chart. Connor 108 degrees, Andy 45 degrees, Thomas 145 degrees, and Mark 63 degrees. Okay, let's look at our next question, question number 9. Okay, let's have a look at our next question, question number 9. So question number 9 says, Yannick draws a pie chart to represent the colours of counters in a box. A third of the counters in the box are green. The question says, circle the angle of the sector for the green counters. And we've got 4 choices, either 30 degrees, 60 degrees, 120 degrees, or 300 degrees. Now we're told that a third of the counters are green. So if a third of the counters are green, that means that a third of the pie chart will be green. And remember the whole pie chart, a full circle, 360 degrees. If we find a third of 360 degrees, that'll tell us the size of the angle. So if we do 360 divided by 3, that'll tell us the size of the angle. So how many 3's go into 3? 1. How many 3's go into 6? 2. And how many 3's go into 0? 0. So that would be 120 degrees. If you've got a third of a circle, that angle will be 120 degrees. So that's it, 120 degrees. Okay, let's look at our next question, question number 10. So question number 10 says, in a pie chart, one sector represents 10% of the data. Circle the angle of that sector. So it's 10% of the data, and if it represents 10% of the data, it'd be 10% of the pie chart. Remember, the whole pie chart's 360 degrees, so let's find 10% of 360. And to find 10% of something, you divide it by 10. So 360 divided by 10 would be 36. So the angle would be 36 degrees, and that's it. Okay, let's look at our next question, question number 11. So question number 11 says, a pie chart is drawn to represent the colours of cars in a car park, and the sector for white cars is 72 degrees. And the question says, what fraction of the cars in the car park are white? And to give our answer in its simplest form. So we're told the angle of the sector is 72 degrees, and that's 72 out of the full circle, which is 360 degrees. So let's write that as a fraction to begin with. So that's 72 out of the 360 possible degrees in that pie chart. So that means that 72 360ths of the cars in the car park are white. But we've been asked to give our answer in its simplest form. So let's divide both the numerator and denominator by some numbers and cancel it down. So let's divide them both by 2. And that would give us 36 over 180. Let's divide by 2 again. That's going to be 18 over 90. Let's divide by 2 again. That's equal to 9 over 45. And let's divide both of those by 9. And if we divide both of those numbers by 9, we get that's equal to 1/5. So that's 1/5. And actually that's quite a useful one to learn, that a fifth of a pie chart would be 72 degrees. So for instance, you may know that half a pie chart will be 180 degrees. The angle for a quarter of a pie chart would be 90 degrees. A third of a pie chart, 120 degrees. A fifth of the pie chart is 72 degrees. A sixth of a pie chart being 60 degrees and things like that. It's quite useful to know those. Okay, let's look at our next question, question number 12. Okay, so question number 12. Question number 12 says, Nigel sells bottles of drinks, and the table shows the percentage of drinks sold in one day. So 10% of the drinks sold were cola, 50% of the drinks were water, and 40% of the drinks were lemonade. And we've been asked to draw an accurate pie chart for this information. Now this question, rather than having the frequencies like in the previous questions, this time we've got percentages. So if we work out 10% of 360 degrees, that'll be the angle for cola. If we work out 50% of 360 degrees, which is 180, that'll be the angle for water. I'm just going to write that down because half of 360 degrees is 180 degrees. And 40 degrees of 360, then that'll be the size of the angle for lemonade. So let's find cola. Okay, let's actually write here angle. So I've gone for water being 180 degrees straight away. We know that half of a pie chart, 50% would be 180 degrees. 10% of 360 would be 36, because if you divide it by 10, you get 36. And 40%, well, if we know that 10% would be 36 degrees, that means that 40% would be 4 times that. So if we double it and double it again, that'll be what 40% would be. double it would be 72, and double it again would be 144, so 144 degrees. So that's fantastic, we've worked out those angles. Now if we add those up, we get 360, which is fantastic. Okay, now let's draw a pie chart. So let's start off with colour 36 degrees. So we've got our pie chart here, we've got our line drawn for, so let's get our protractor and our pencil. I've got my 360 degree protractor here. I'm just going to switch over. I've used 180 for loads of questions already. So putting the cross of the protractor at the centre of the circle, and we're going to go around to 36 degrees, so 30, 35, 36 would be there. And then we'll get our ruler, and we'll draw a nice straight line from the centre of the circle to the circumference of the circle. And that is 36 degrees, and that's 36 degrees, and that is for colour. Okay, next we've got lemonade, and lemonade is 180 degrees. So that's quite nice actually, because 180 degrees, we can just do a straight line. You could just get your ruler and carry on that line, or just to show you that if you put your protractor there, put the 0 at the top there, if you go around, then 180 degrees would be there. So it's just carrying on that line. So it's a straight line, because that means that we'd have half the pie chart being water. So that's 180 degrees there, 180 degrees, and that is for water. And then the last sector will be 144 degrees, and that's for lemonade, so lemonade. And you could check that if you wanted to, but that's it. So we have got there, cola 36 degrees, water 180 degrees, and lemonade 144 degrees. Okay, let's look at our next question, question number 13. Okay, so question number 13 says that 40 people are surveyed about their opinion of a new road, and the council want to show their responses in a pie chart. And 29 of the people said the new road was excellent. Work out the size of the sector for excellent in the pie chart. Okay, so 40 people were surveyed. So if we take 360 and divide that by 40, that'll tell you the number of degrees for each person. And 360 divided by 40 is equal to 9. That's 9 degrees per person, so per person. Now we're told that 29 people answered excellent. So that's going to be 29 lots of 9. So 29 multiplied by 9. And that'll be the size of the angle. So if we do 29, so 29 multiplied by 9, that's equal to 261 degrees. So the angle for the sector for excellent will be 261 degrees. Okay, let's look at our next question, question number 14. Okay, so question number 14. Question number 14 says the tub contains 72 counters, and the counters are either red, yellow, pink, blue, or green. So red, yellow, pink, blue, or green. And we're told that Donica is going to draw a pie chart to represent the colours of the counters, and the table shows some of the information. So we've got some of the information here. Okay, so we've got this table, and actually we'll go back up to the top of the question. There's a very important bit here. It says the tub contains 72 counters. It contains 72 counters. So if we do 360 divided by 72, that'll tell us the number of degrees per counter in the pie chart. So 360 divided by 72 is equal to 5. So that's 5 degrees per counter. So that's going to be very useful for us. So each counter is worth 5 degrees. So here, if we have a look at our table here, we can actually put in some of these numbers. We have got here, there's 11 yellow counters, and each counter is worth 5 degrees. So 11 times 5 is equal to 55 degrees. So that's that angle for yellow, 55 degrees. There's 5 green counters, so 5, and each one's worth 5 degrees. So 5 times 5 is 25 degrees. For blue, the angle is 20 degrees. So if we divide that by 5, because each counter is worth 5 degrees, 20 divided by 5 is equal to 4. Okay, now 95. Well, 95 divided by 5 is equal to 19. So that means there's going to be 19 pink counters. So we've filled these in so far. We've times the 11 by 5 to get 55. We've times the 5 by 5 to get 25. And we've divided these angles to get the number of counters that are pink and blue. Now, to find how many red counters there's going to be, if we add these numbers together and take them away from 72, that'll tell us how many red counters there'll be. So let's do that. So we're going to do 11 plus 19, that's equal to 30, plus 4 is 34, plus 5 is equal to 39. So there's 39 counters in the tub so far that are yellow, pink, blue, and green. And then if we do 72 take away 39, that's equal to 33. So that means there's going to be 33 red counters, and each one of them is represented by 5 degrees in the pie chart. So if we do 33 times 5, that's equal to 165. So that means the size of that angle will be 165 degrees. And that's it. So that's Donica's table. Okay, let's look at our next question, question number 15. Okay, let's have a look at our next question. Question number 15. So question number 15 says, how Katie allocates her wages is shown in the table below. So she allocates it in terms of rent, overspending and savings. And we've got percentage. This is the percentage of her wages. So 25% of her wages is spent on rent. 45% is overspending, and the rest of her wages goes on savings. So first of all, let's work out the percentage of her wages that she allocates to savings. So if we add together 25% and 45%, that's equal to 70%. And then 100 take away 70 is equal to 30. So that means that 30% of her wages goes towards savings. So we filled out the column for the percentage. Now we need to fill in the angles in the pie chart. So we need to find the angle for rent, the angle for overspending, and the angle for savings. So here we've got the percentages. So 25% of the money goes towards rent. So that means that 25% of the pie chart will represent rent. So 25% of 360 degrees, well, that would be half and half it again, would be 90. So that would be 90 degrees. Or just to find 25%, you divide by 4. So if you take 360 and divide that by 4, that's equal to 90. So that means the angle for rent in the pie chart will be 90 degrees. Okay, now overspending. So we want to find 45% of 360. So to find 45%, I'm going to start off with 10%. So 10% will be equal to 36 degrees, because obviously if you take 360 and divide it by 10, you get 36. So that's 10%. 4 lots of 10% would be 40%. So if we times that by 4, if we do 36 times by 4, that's equal to 144 degrees. So that's 40%. Now 5% would be half of 10%. So that would be, if 10% is 36 degrees, 5% would be 18 degrees. And finally, if we want to find 45%, we just add together the 144 degrees and the 18 degrees. So 144 plus 18 is equal to 162 degrees. Now that was one way to do it. Actually, there might have been an easier way. To find 45% of a number, you can just take 360, in this case, the degrees in the pie chart, divide that by 100 to find 1%, which is 3.6, and times by 45. That's equal to 162. So that's 162 degrees. Okay, finally, savings. So for savings, if we want to find the size of the angle, we could add together these two angles and take it away from 360. So we could do 90 plus 162, that's equal to 252. And 360 take away 252 is equal to 108 degrees. Alternatively, we could just take 10%, which is 36 degrees, times that by 3, and we get 108 degrees. And that's fantastic. We've now got the angles. Now let's, in part B, draw the pie chart. So let's draw the pie chart. So the first sector will be for rent, and that's 90 degrees. So let's go to our pie chart. The first sector is for rent, and that's 90 degrees. So let's get our protractor. And we're going to put the cross of the protractor at the bottom of the line and line it up. And then we're going to go from 0 all the way around to 90. So 90 degrees is there. So that's 90 degrees. Now let's move the protractor and get our ruler and then go across. So that's a 90-degree angle, and that's for rent. Make sure we label that as rent. Okay, now if we go back up, overspending is 162 degrees. So we want to draw a 162-degree angle here. So let's get our protractor, put the cross of the protractor on the center of the circle, the 0 degrees on the line we've just drawn, and we want to do 162 degrees. So if we go around from 0 all the way around to 90, 140, 150, 160, 161, 162 would be there. That's 162 degrees there. And let's get our ruler and again join the center of the circle up with the circumference of the circle, passing through that little dash. So that now will be a 162-degree angle, and that's for overspending. So overspending. And the last sector, savings, will be 108 degrees. So this one should hopefully be 108 degrees. Let's measure it. So let's put the cross of the protractor on the center of the circle, start at 0 and go around, and we get to 108 degrees. So that's 108 degrees, and that is for savings. And that's it, we've drawn our pie chart. Okay, let's have a look at our next question, question number 16. Question number 16 says a running club has got 240 members. And we're told that 2/5 of the members are senior runners, 80 of the members are veteran runners, and the rest of the runners are junior runners. And we've been asked to draw and label a pie chart for this information. Okay, so in terms of this, I'm actually going to do a table. I'm going to write down here the categories. So they are senior, we've got veteran, and junior. And let's find the frequencies for each of those. So we know there's 80 veteran runners. So let's put 80 there for the number of veteran runners. We're told that 2/5 of the members are senior runners. So we want to find 2/5 of 240 because there's 240 altogether. And if we work out what 2/5 of 240 is, that'll be the number of senior runners. So let's do that. So let's take 240. We'll divide that by 5 to find 1/5. So 240 divided by 5 is equal to 48. That's 48. And then we'll times by 2. So 48 times 2 is equal to 96. So there's 96 senior runners. And in terms of the junior runners, well, let's add together the 96 and 80 and take that away from 240. So 96 plus 80 is equal to 176. And 240 take away that answer is equal to 64. So the 64 junior runners. So that's fantastic. We now know the number of runners in each of the categories. Now we want to find the angles. So to find the angles, we're going to take 360, the degrees in a full circle, and we're going to divide that by 240. So 360 divided by 240 is equal to 1.5. So it means that each runner is represented by 1.5 degrees in the pie chart. So now let's multiply all these frequencies by 1.5. So times by 1.5, times by 1.5, and times by 1.5. And that tells us the angles. So 96 multiplied by 1.5 is equal to 144 degrees. So that's for the senior runners. 80 times 1.5 is equal to 120 degrees. And finally, 64 multiplied by 1.5 is equal to 96 degrees. So we've now got those angles. And if we add them together, we should get 360. Just checking. Yep, we do. Fantastic. Now we just need to draw the pie chart. So let's start off with the senior runners. They're represented by 144 degrees in the pie chart. So let's go down to the pie chart and draw 144 degrees. Got our protractor. We're going to put the cross of the protractor on the center of the circle, 0 on the line that's been drawn for us, and we're going to go around to 144 degrees. So we're going around the outside here. We've got 140, 145, so go back up 1 degree there, 144. And we'll get our ruler and pencil and draw a nice line from the center of the circle through that point to the circumference of the circle. So that is 144 degrees, and that's for the senior runners. Okay, the veteran runners, that's 120 degrees. We go back up, 120 degrees there for the veteran runners. So now if we go here, we've now got our protractor. We're going to put the cross of the protractor in the center of the circle. We're putting 0 on the line we've just drawn, and we're going to go around to 120 degrees. So 10, 20, 30, 90, 100, 110, 120. So 120 degrees is there. So put a little dash there. And then draw a nice line from the center of the circle to the circumference, passing through that point. So that's 120 degrees there, 120 degrees, and that's for the veteran runners. And then what's left should then be, if we look at our table again, 96 degrees for the junior runners. So we go back to our pie chart. Let's just measure. Yep, so we've got 96 degrees there, and that's 96 degrees, and that's for the junior runners. And that's it, we've drawn our pie chart. So just to recap on that question, we found out the number of runners in each category by doing 2/5 of 240, and we found that there was 96 senior runners. We were told there's 80 veteran runners. We added those up and then took them away from 240, and we found there was 64 junior runners. Then we found the degrees per runner, which was 1.5 degrees per runner. We times the frequencies by 1.5 to find the angle for each of the sectors, and then we just drew the pie chart, and that's it. Okay, let's have a look at our last question, question number 17. So question number 17 says a bakery makes vanilla, chocolate, lemon and strawberry cupcakes. And the baker wants to draw a pie chart to represent the cupcakes made last week. The sector for the vanilla cupcakes has been drawn, so this sector has been drawn for us. Then if we go on down, we're told that 15% of the cupcakes made last week were strawberry. Well, actually, let's stop there a second, because 15% of the cupcakes made last week were strawberry. So that means that in the pie chart, 15% of the pie chart will be strawberry. Now, there's 360 degrees in a pie chart, so if we work out 15% of 360, that'll be the size of the angle for strawberry. So let's actually work that out now. So 15% of 360. Well, to find 15% of 360, we can just take 360, divide that by 100. That's equal to 3.6, that's 1%. And then do 3.6 times 15, and that's equal to 54. So that's 54 degrees. So that means the angle for strawberry will be 54 degrees. I'll come back to that in a second and draw in a second. We're then told the ratio of chocolate cupcakes to lemon cupcakes made last week were 2 to 1. Complete the pie chart. Okay, so we've worked out the angle for strawberry cupcakes. I went and done that straight away. So let's actually put that on the pie chart. So that's 54 degrees. So let's get our protractor, put the 0 on the line that's been drawn for us there. The center of the protractor on the center of the circle, and we're going to go around to 54 degrees. So 50, 55 there, so one before 54 will be there. So that's 54 degrees, and then get the pencil, put it on the center of the pie chart, line it up with a little dash, and draw the line. So that's 54 degrees. So 54 degrees, and that is strawberry. Okay, so what's left will represent the chocolate and lemon cupcakes, and we just need to decide how we're going to divide that into the two sectors. Now we're told the ratio of chocolate cupcakes to lemon cupcakes was 2 to 1. So if we can work out the number of degrees left, we can then divide that in the ratio 2 to 1 and find out the size of the sector for chocolate cupcakes and the size of the sector for lemon cupcakes. So let's do that. So if we take 60 degrees and we add 54 degrees, that's equal to 114 degrees. So it means that 114 degrees has been used at the pie chart already. And if we do 360, take away 114, that's equal to 246 degrees. So that means that what's left is 246 degrees. So that means that we just need to divide this in the ratio 2 to 1. So let's do that. So to divide 246 degrees in the ratio 2 to 1, we'll add together the parts in the ratio. 2 plus 1 is equal to 3. We'll take 246 and we'll divide that by 3. And it's a calculator question, so that's quite nice. We can just divide by 3. And that's equal to 82 degrees. So that means that one part is 82 degrees. So that'll be the lemon cupcakes. That's 82 degrees. So lemon cupcakes would be 82 degrees. And then if we do 82 times 2, that's equal to 164. So that's fantastic. That's for the chocolate cupcakes. So that means that the chocolate cupcakes will be 164 degrees and the lemon cupcakes will be 82 degrees. So that's fantastic. We've now worked out the size of the angles for each of those sectors. And that's it. So just to recap, we found the size of the angle that was left, 246 degrees, and we divided it in the ratio 2 to 1. So we divided it by 3 to be 82. We done 82 times 1 to find the size of the sector for lemon cupcakes, which is 82, and 82 times 2, which is 164 degrees for the chocolate cupcakes. So let's draw those. So the lemon cupcakes would be 82 degrees. So let's go up and draw that sector. So if we get our protractor and our pencil and put the cross of the protractor in the center of the circle, put the 0 on the line, we're going to go round to 82 degrees, which will be there. Then we'll get our pencil and draw a nice line passing through that dash, like so. So that's then 82 degrees. So that's 82 degrees, and that is for lemon. So that means what's left should hopefully be 164 degrees. So let's measure that and see. And as you can see, that would be 164 degrees. So that's 164 degrees. And that's for the chocolate cupcakes, chocolate. And that's fantastic. We've drawn our pie chart. So we've got our vanilla cupcakes, which is represented by 60 degrees, strawberry cupcakes, which is represented by 54 degrees, lemon cupcakes, which is represented by 82 degrees, and chocolate cupcakes, which is represented by 164 degrees. And that's it. And that's it. So these have been the video solutions to the Corbettmaths Practice Questions on drawn pie charts. I really hope you found this video useful. And if you have found it useful, please like and please subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you need any extra help on drawn pie charts, if you go to Corbettmaths, and if you go to video number 163, there's a dedicated video tutorial there on drawn pie charts. And that's it. So thanks very much. Cheers. Bye.